Hello and welcome everybody to Opposites Attract. Anthony Carlo here with John Stanko, and we're ready to go. I think a little bit of a delay today. Went over.
You and Benzino the Hero ran a bit late.
Yeah, me and Benzino, we're laughing a lot, so I would probably say that's why that happened. But nonetheless, we're here now, and we are ready to talk your sports. We are ready to talk the sports everybody wants to hear.
What do you want to start out with, Anthony?
Well, I mean, you know what? I mean, just in general, I think people like to hear about the tournament, the NCAA tournament, March Madness. We talked a lot about this last week, but I think it's worth it. And a couple of things happened since we last talked about it. The Sweet 16, the Elite 8. We're already to the Final Four. But I'd say there were some impressive Elite 8 games that, certainly to me, there were many of them. What about you?
Well, I mean, out of the Elite Eight games, I think safe to say easily the best game in my mind. Even though the final score wasn't as close as they said it was, the Kentucky-Michigan game, the 3-point win for the Wildcats over the Wolverines was fantastic. I mean, the Wisconsin-Arizona game going into overtime, number one seed going down, that has all the excitement built into it. But I think from just watching the game, I got more out of the Kentucky win over Michigan. Connecticut played great against Michigan State. We're going to get into that one because Shabazz Napier is a man on a different planet right now.
I know why we'll get into that one. We'll get into that one so John could say he was right. I know that is right. Why we will get into
But and then the Florida-Dayton one, I knew Florida was going to win it. I didn't think there was much shot for the Flyers. So, to be honest, I watched that game knowing the final was already 10-point win for Florida. It could have been more. But overall, I'd say pretty good Elite 8. I'd say the Sweet 16 also was pretty good for the most part. But overall, I think that the latter half of this tournament is starting to live up to the hype, and now we're finally down to the Final Four.
So talk to me about your beloved Kentucky. And I'll say that
I don't like Kentucky.
You don't like Kentucky?
I'm not a fan of Kentucky.
Oh, you're not?
I respect Kentucky. I respect John Calipari and that program because they win, but that doesn't mean I am a fan of them, if you will. They get the Derek Jeter treatment.
Oh, I see. The Derek Jeter arrogant. You know, we win, so we.
Well, Kentucky's arrogant. That's not.
Well, no, that's it. But you can't compare Jeter to Kentucky.
I'm saying that I don't like.
You know who
them.
agreed with you a couple of nights ago? You know who did?
Who
My father.
Just because your father is a great man.
My father said Derek Jeter has an arrogant winning attitude.
I love your dad.
And he's a Yankees fan.
I love your dad.
And I said to him,
I'm glad your dad's smart.
About.
I'm glad that your father's.
Are you calling me dumb?
I'm saying you must have got your mom's genes. Hopefully she's not listening.
I hope not.
I just got myself in trouble with Mrs. Carlo.
She probably did.
Oh boy. I'm sorry, Mrs. Carlo. I'm sorry. It was all in good fun.
Well,
that's bad.
Yeah, well, you know, she'll punch my
But your
dad
father's right. But your father's right.
Okay.
And, of course, Michael DeMurgis, mascot professor, also believes he's arrogant as well. So you have the odds stacked up against you, sir.
I have nothing.
I think it is time that you acknowledge
people hate me for
reality.
liking Michael Kay. People hate me for liking Derek Jeter and thinking he's not arrogant. People, you know, I'm just a hated person, I guess.
You just have unpopular opinions.
I think that's more like it. I think people think I'm nice, but they just don't like what I have to say.
I'm not that I don't like what you have to say. I just think you're wrong. I just think you're wrong.
Which is often. It is often. You know, I was so mad about my phone not coming. I was going to play Why Can't We Be Friends in the beginning of the show.
Unfortunately.
That's what's coming, so please stop. Don't stop listening to the show because you can stop after you hear that song.
Are you going to sing along to it?
Yes.
I think that'll only be fair.
Exactly. But anyway, Kentucky.
You started this argument when I was making a very clear, concise point. Saying that Kentucky is like Derek Jeter in the sense that they win and you have to respect them, but they're arrogant, just like that's what John Calipari is as the coach of Kentucky.
Okay. I'll bite my tongue on that one. Let's just talk about basketball.
Bite your tongue, it's correct.
No. The only thing I'll bite my tongue about is the Jeter comparison. That's the only thing.
That had nothing to do with the fact that Jeter's arrogant. That was strictly on the fact that I respect them, but it doesn't mean I need to like them.
I agree with you with Kentucky. He's arrogant and all of that. Fine. I just didn't agree with the correlation to that means that Derek Jeter's the same way.
Okay, I'm not saying you just took my point, spun it a completely different direction, and then
Didn't
sidetracked.
you just say Kentucky's like Derek Jeter?
I said Kentucky is like Derek Jeter in the fact that I don't like them, but they win. And then you were like, oh, but he's arrogant. So then you just started this argument, and you cornered yourself because you said your father was right and you were wrong.
So let me rewind and forget that. I thought you said it's because they're arrogant, both of them.
Yeah.
Pretty sure you
But
said
I'm pretty
that.
sure you should adhere to your father's advice
Okay.
because he's always
I'm
correct.
pretty sure we should talk about basketball.
I don't know. I think you need to talk about your parental issues right now because you should listen to your dad.
Well, you know what? I listen. First
I'm
of
gonna
all,
call Mr. Carlo, say you're grounded until you.
we
until
have a
you-
phone here. You know, he can call in anytime
He
he
can
wants.
call in anytime he wants. Mr. Carlo, feel free to call in.
What is the
and
number here again?
It's written on the machine.
Oh, okay. The number is. I can't see the number.
You have glasses and you can't see the
633?
number.
2369. That is the number.
914.
Call in. We'll love to take your calls.
914 area code.
914 area code. We're gonna get a call.
I hope we get a
The
call.
question is,
Then
how do
you
we?
have to figure out how
The
to work
question
the
is,
machine.
how do we
And
answer the call?
I'm gonna enjoy watching you figure out how to answer the machine.
Well, I heard Pete say we have to put it on the pod. We have to take we'll put the phone
we'll
call
worry
on.
about that if it comes up.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
If it
back
comes
to
up.
the
back to
Kentucky.
basketball after you sidetrack.
Thank you for sidetracking us, John. Thank you for talking in circles around the topic.
Of course, not a problem, Anthony.
Anyway, Kentucky, balanced scoring. 7 players, right? 7
Mhm.
players with at least 8 points. They were the preseason number 1. Everybody had them on the highest pedestal. They came into the season, showed us all that they're not inhuman. They lost some big games. They proved they can be dysfunctional on the court at times. But right now, this is what matters. They're tying everything together, and they're on a hot streak. They're not one-dimensional by any means, in my opinion. I feel like offensively, Randall is somebody who's not taking the whole load because you have the twins there helping him out.
Mhm.
And I feel like that makes them very dangerous.
I agree with you. I should say about that Elite Eight game against Michigan, Aaron Harrison hit the game-winning three-point shot from the left wing, I believe it was.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that was an ill-advised shot. Like, I don't think that was a shot Calipari drew up or he wanted him to take, but he knocked it down. I mean, the Michigan defender played the best defense he possibly could. That was just a case of, wow, he hit that shot.
You know, I don't get to correct you too much on this show because you're usually right.
Correct me.
And-
How?
I'll
Like, I'm curious as to
I'll
how,
only say this because
what I
John,
s-
because I heard John Calipari say it himself. Did you hear him talk about the game
I
or
did
no?
not. I did
Okay,
not.
so then you are freed of any wrongness in this
Okay,
situation.
I did not hear this comment.
John Calipari told him to take the 3. They won't
Really?
defend you on it. That's what he said too.
My counter argument is they did defend him on it, and the defender played phenomenal defense, but Harrison just hit the shot,
Right.
knocked it
Well,
down right in front of his eye.
I'm just telling you what
defender's
Calipari told him.
All right, you're
before the
fair.
play.
You are correct. All right,
So-
I watching that, I was like, why are you taking that? Oh my God, he hit it! It was like, what are you
Exactly,
doing?
yeah.
Oh my God, great shot.
I felt the same way as you until I heard him say afterwards that's what he wanted him to do.
I did not know that, so I stand corrected. I acknowledge my mistakes.
But
Just like you should acknowledge that your father's right about Derek Jeter.
okay, well, I guess we'll revisit this through the whole show. That my father's right about that.
I
John just
guess.
loves to hear a Yankees fan, I guess, agree with the Red Sox geared opinion.
Agree
of
with
his
the
own.
majority of baseball's opinion, more like it.
Maybe I'm gonna be the odd one out in this career. Maybe I'm gonna be the one that everybody says, "What the hell was Carlo talking about?"
I mean, at least people will be talking about you.
Yeah, that is true. But anyway, so what do you think about these twins? What do you think about these twins?
Listen, I think they grew up. I think that's what you're seeing in this tournament. They were freshmen going in. You have 5 freshmen starting, and you're preseason number 1. There are going to be some unrealistic expectations put on you, and that's what happened. Now Kentucky, they've played 3 instant classics in this tournament: the
That
win
is
over
true.
Wichita State, the win over Louisville, and the win over Michigan.
They beat 3 real good teams.
all really good teams, all phenomenal games.
Absolutely.
So I may not like Kentucky,
They made you bite your nails.
but man, they played great basketball and they played great games, and they're playing the best basketball of their whole year. Coach Calipari made the remark that in the beginning of the season he was coaching players how not to be selfish or how to play as a team. Now they're doing that, and now he's like, now we're just playing basketball. Now
Yeah.
I'm coaching basketball, and I'm not coaching life lessons. He's just coaching the game.
So
And
that's a good point.
And that's why this team is playing well right now. And he also made the point, like, people are saying that I'm more relaxed. That's what Calipari said.
Mhm.
And he's like, I am more relaxed because right now I know what I'm coaching. I'm coaching basketball. I'm not
Right.
I'm not coaching selflessness or anything like that. I'm
Right.
coaching what I came here to coach.
That's where a lot of the dysfunctionalness they had on the court probably came from earlier on. They weren't playing well together as a team.
Well, I mean, when you're the star player on your high school teams and you get the ball every possession and
Yeah.
you create your shot,
Yeah.
it takes used to getting surrounded by fantastic talent how to work with it. And obviously, it hit They hit the nail on the head this tournament.
I love your point of how they play well, like, they distribute the wealth pretty much when it comes to it, because not only that, but I mean they completely abused Michigan on the boards that game. I mean they rebounded 63% of their shots, which is solid, but they had players. I think it was one of each. I think at least once each player had an offensive rebound on Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that means that's a special thing, because not do you always have every single player rebounding the basketball.
Yeah, you got to look at Marcus Lee coming off the bench for Kentucky, playing 15 minutes. He had 8 rebounds, 7 of them were offensive. Yeah. He also had He also had 10 points coming off the bench. So I mean, I think you got to look at Marcus Lee. He came off the bench when they're a little bit banged up down low. So I think you got to look at Kentucky right now. They're probably I'm willing to say I think they're the hottest team heading into the Final Four. You could argue Connecticut, but I think that Kentucky beat better teams to get to the Final Four. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm going to say Kentucky's the hottest team of the Final Four remaining.
I think I would agree with you, because I say that Kentucky and UConn are on the same playing field, as in the fact that they're hot, but I want to say one thing, though, that I think that when it comes down to who has more firepower, I'm going to say Kentucky. So who can distribute? I know both teams are hot, but I think that UConn might have to work a little bit harder to keep that hot streak going, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Now that we're down to the Final Four, I mean, UConn's going to be putting in front of maybe their toughest challengers yet, So, but no, I mean, Kentucky, played a great game. And since we're talking about UConn, how about we talk about the UConn game?
Well, I mean, UConn, when you beat Michigan State, the sexy pick to win the championship, you're doing something right. Shabazz Napier is carrying that team on its back. But you know what? It was the defense of Connecticut that just caused havoc for Michigan State. They could not get into the lane. They didn't drive the ball to the basket, and I don't know why they didn't do it. But it seems like they just didn't have the confidence to get the ball into the lane and try and finish at the hoop. And, I mean, there was a point where Payne drove to the center of the lane for Michigan State at the end of the game, and the announcers went, "Where was this all game long?" It's just they didn't do it.
Yeah,
and
no, I agree with you.
You got to give credit to the Huskies for their defense. Keith Appling did not play a great game for Michigan State.
And they're smaller, too.
And they hounded the guards. It was a great defensive game plan by Kevin Ollie, coach of Connecticut. And it was the defense for Connecticut that won that game. It was not Shabazz Napier, even though he had a good game. It was not their offense. It was the way they hounded the ball once it crossed the timeline. And that's why Michigan State can never get in the flow offensively. And Coach Izzo, for the first time, his seniors, or for him coaching, they don't reach the Final Four.
The Spartans had only 6 offensive rebounds and 6 points in the paint.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you said that stat.
No, but I was referencing to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that the biggest thing was that the fact that UConn continuously boxed them out. They fought the box out for box out. They're not as big, and they were there fighting for those rebounds. And you got to love that when the smaller player, he sticks up to the big guy and he says, that is my board, and that's what they did. And you have to respect that if you're UConn. But I think that was something to definitely look at in that game.
I think you look at it, 16 turnovers for Michigan State, only 8 for UConn. And UConn, they took advantage of most of those turnovers that they forced. And also, I mean, if you look at it, UConn won by 6, and they only shot 23% from beyond the arc, while Michigan State shot 38. So, I mean, they were able to do it, not from beyond three-point line. They did it from the free throw line also. 21 for 22 from the charity stripe, UConn was. Michigan State, 7 of 8.
And Shabazz Napier hit some big free throws.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the thing. When UConn got to the line, they made up for their lack of three-point shot. And the teams, I believe, is shooting over 80% in the tournament from the free throw line, and over 85% or 90% in the final 5 minutes.
Right.
So this team is hitting their free opportunities, and they're making teams pay for fouling them.
Right.
And Shabazz Napier, I think, hits almost 90% on the season. So when your best player, your best driver, is also your best free throw shooter, I mean, great things are going to happen for you, and that's why they're making a late run.
Yeah, and I mean, the only question left is can they turn this miraculous run into a Cinderella story for good? You know what I mean? Where they can officially say they can wear the crown, they can cut the net down, and I mean, I'm sure we'll get into that when we'll get to our Final Four preview. But it's they make it worthwhile because a lot of people want to see, as much as people don't like their brackets being busted, they like to see the smaller teams.
They like to see the good story.
Yeah, they like to see the underdog story, the good story. But we had a couple of other Elite Eight games, and I believe.
No, I mean the other one, the UConn's gonna play Florida, and Florida took on Dayton. They were the Cinderella story of this tournament, the 11th seed. You beat your rival Ohio State in the in the second round, excuse me.
Yeah.
And then you go on to beat up Syracuse. You beat Stanford, who upset Kansas and New Mexico. So I mean, Dayton, I think had the crown behind them on a national standpoint because they wanted to be the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, Florida, they're a more talented team. And I think it just showed throughout the game. I don't think Dayton ever got in control.
I think in this instance, it was possibly Dayton's Cinderella story to end. Did you feel that vibe a little bit? I mean, they came up to a brick wall. Much.
They came into a buzzsaw. Scotty Woken, 23 points, 6 of 14 shooting, 8 of 10 from the free throw line. Scotty Woken said, "All right, we're getting this team to the Final Four." Yeah. I mean, when he hit that, I believe it was a 3-point shot at the end of the first half. I think he hit at the buzzer. Yeah. I think that was for me. That was like, all right. Florida's got this game. It's just working all for them. Credit to Dayton because you had an incredibly memorable run, but Florida was destined to get to the Final Four.
Yeah, exactly. The whole way through, it was just I think Florida had the game locked up, and I couldn't have said it better than that. It was just pretty much destined to happen. And then Arizona and Wisconsin, they went at it, and that was a very, very close game. 64-63 was the final score. Frank Kaminsky, big game, 28 points. The big man broke out. The game went into overtime. Wisconsin had a 1-point lead, and a second after an out-of-bounds call went against them. The Badgers basically had Nick Johnson, who was shut down. In my opinion, he was defended very well throughout the whole game.
He was. He still finished with 16 points to lead all scorers for Arizona, but it was 6 of 16 shooting.
Right.
So he wasn't taking many open looks.
Exactly, and the ball came down to him, and he didn't even get the shot off in time.
Exactly.
So I mean, they did a great job suffocating him. Wisconsin is a tough team because not only do what they do well is they use the full play clock. They'll drain the play clock down until they create the best opportunity possible. And I just think that when they force you to score off the dribble drive. They force your offense to run into Frank Kaminsky. I think that's what ultimately it comes down to, and then he's a tough guy to run into.
I mean, that's incredibly true as I speak good English here on WICR. That's incredibly true. I think Wisconsin, what makes them so good is they have so many people who can score. And I think that when they waste down that shot clock, when they get it down to the final 10 seconds, you don't know who to key in on as a defense because you have everyone on the floor who can hit a mid-range or long-range jumper if there's a kick out after a late shot clock drive.
Absolutely.
That's what makes them so dangerous. That's what Arizona fell prey to. So listen, Arizona, again, phenomenal season. I think you gotta look at Nick Johnson. He had 16 points. You gotta look at Aaron Gordon. He pulled down 18 rebounds, phenomenal number, but he only shot 3 of 11.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a little bit. I mean, you can't really knock him. He pulled down 18 rebounds, but at the same time, he makes a couple more shots, shoots roughly 50%. Arizona probably wins the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, Aaron Gordon, a phenomenal player, played 39 minutes. Nick Johnson played 43 minutes. This Arizona team, Wisconsin team, they battled throughout the game. This was a game that went down all the way to the end. You didn't know. No one really had clear momentum going into the final overtime. It was just a good, well-fought game. Credit to Wisconsin. And credit to Arizona for a great season. And I believe Aaron Gordon's going to be a phenomenal NBA player when he, I think, eventually announces for the NBA draft.
Agreed. So that was Elite Eight, right?
That was the Elite Eight.
That wrapped it up. So now we sit and wait. I believe the next game to be played is Saturday. This upcoming Saturday.
Correct, yes.
We sit and wait for the Final Four, and we look at 2 matchups. One of them features the Florida Gators up against the who is it?
Connecticut Huskies.
I'm sorry, UConn Huskies.
It's a late evening for Anthony Carlo.
Yes, I draw blanks sometimes. I start saying something and then I just blank out. And then you have Wisconsin up against Wisconsin, and they'll be taking on
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Thank you.
I got you. No worries.
Thank you. But I want to know. I want to make a little wager here. Let's make a little wager.
All right. What's the wager?
Well, the wager is whoever picks the right team wins.
Okay, well we need something to bet on. We
Yes.
need a
I
wager.
understand. That was called humor. It was called a joke. I was kidding. Okay, John didn't get it. Okay, so what do you want to bet on? How about whoever wins the bet has to rep something of a hated team of theirs next show. How about that one?
All right, that's fine.
Say okay to that?
I say okay.
You know, I'm hesitant of this bet. I know I came up with it, but
I
I'm
know
hesitant
you came
of
up with this, now you can't back away.
Who says that? Was that
because
a written rule?
you came up with it, and I
Okay.
already agreed, so you can't back out now.
So you're okay wearing a Yankees hat for a day?
I'm confident in my picks. Not for a day. You said for the show.
For the show, okay. Well, that's
Okay.
a day. Whatever.
Drastic things here. Drastic changes.
You know,
But,
I've never. Can I tell you something? I don't know. Maybe you'll be able to attest to the same thing, but I have never worn a bit of Red Sox apparel.
I've
ever
never
in my
worn a
life.
bit of Yankee apparel in my life.
I've never.
And I've never worn a bit of Jet apparel, and I've never worn a bit of Giant apparel, and I've never worn a bit of Ravens apparel.
Okay.
No.
Okay, fine.
And it won't happen next Monday.
Me and my brother, when we would be in a let's say a Modell's or a Dick's Sporting Goods, whatever, it would be a cardinal sin for either one of us to put on a Red Sox hat or a Mets hat, even to boot, to the point where we tried to sneak the hat on each other, and have the privilege of saying you wore a Red Sox hat for a second. And I'll tell you, when we were little, it would come to tears pretty much if that happened. We would take the hat off, slam it on the ground. Anyway, that was my little story.
I believe it.
But
I believe it.
my pick. Let's go into the.
Now, here's the thing: are we picking the Final Four or are we picking the champion? Are we picking these two games or are we picking the champion? Because the championship game is played Monday night.
That's a tough one. I was gonna say pick the winners of the Final Four, who will be going to the championship.
Who will be going to the championship?
But we should probably should do it all then, right?
Why not? How about?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think you have to.
Because why would we stop short? We'll just project whoever we think is going to win.
Up right.
So we'll start with the Kentucky game.
Kentucky versus Wisconsin. The 8 seed Kentucky Wildcats going up against the 2 seed Wisconsin Badgers. This game will be played on Sunday. Anthony, since you made this bet, you have the privilege of picking this game first.
Okay, thank you for that privilege. I'm going to go with the I guess we could call it an upset story, and I'm going to say the Wildcats are going to win this one.
Why is that?
Well, Kentucky is obviously, I call it an upset because technically they're the underdog. They have the 8 seed in this one. But pretty much, I mean, as I was speaking before, a lot comes down to momentum. And when you catch fire like Kentucky has caught fire, as we said, beating very, very, very decorated opponents to get to this point, they've basically proven that they can take down very, very good teams. But when I look at Kentucky, I look at a front line that is formidable, very tough to beat. They're very good at as we talked about before, getting rebounds, not just one player doing one thing, but having in their last game they had 5 different players, each one of them had at least one offensive rebound. Things I feel will not be all on Julius Randle's back, I feel, in this game, and I feel that with the twins that he has to complement him, they have the ability to lead a well-balanced attack against Wisconsin. Now, the thing about Wisconsin is that 3-pointers for them are very valuable. They have gone cold from behind the arc.
They shot 35% against Arizona, who's a very good defensive team. You gonna call that cold?
Look, cold is cold.
That's not cold. That's like average for a normal team. You're gonna say they're cold when they're shooting the average for what a normal college basketball team shoots?
But all right, fine. But listen, when you
listen to your father, he's always right.
My father's not.
Your
on the
father
line
would agree
right
with me.
He probably would. But listen to me. All right, fine. But how about if they what they did, they shot 35% from behind the arc. Fine. You consider that average? You're saying for a normal team?
I'm saying that's not bad. Like you're saying that's ice cold. That's not bad. I mean, it's not up to their par, but it's not bad.
Okay, so what says that they're not going to be just average again against Kentucky?
I don't know, but I just disagree with you saying that they're cold.
3-pointers are their most valuable asset. So call it whatever you want. Maybe it's not cold. Maybe it's not ice cold. It's an off night, a little bit below par of what they normally do. If that's your go-to thing, it is one of their more valuable weapons. How could you say that it's not going to play into this game against Kentucky?
I'm just saying it's going to play into it, but I'm not disagreeing that Wisconsin needs to hit 3-point shots.
So are you disagreeing with the fact that I said cold
yes,
instead of
that's
below
all
par?
I'm disagreeing with.
Okay, fine.
I'm just picking a fight.
All right, fine. Cold, forget it. They didn't go ice cold. They went below par.
There you go.
I'll rephrase.
Proper word choice here.
I'll rephrase one word.
Proper word choice.
But anyway, I mean, if you could say in their favor that if they can stifle Nick Johnson, why can't they stifle Randall?
Mm-hmm.
But then Kentucky, as I said,
Aaron Johnson.
I'm sorry, Aaron Johnson. Kentucky, they've been putting up with a lot. They've been putting a lot on other players at this point. They've been spreading the wealth. So I feel like if you have a balanced attack like that, it's not rocket science. It's the fact that if you shut one player down, I feel like you have a team around you that has been hot. Look at who hit the winning shot in the last game. And I just feel like their momentum is going to carry them to another victory.
All right, so we're going to disagree on our first pick.
Okay.
I like the Wisconsin Badgers in this one. I think that they're 30-7 on the year. I think they were really underrated in their conference, and I think the biggest thing to look at is that they are ranked number 2 in the country in offensive turnover percentage. Kentucky is unstoppable when they get in transition with the athleticism that they have from all 5 players. If you get them going up and down the court, nobody can stop them. They struggle more in a half-court set.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I'm saying is that Wisconsin, they are not going to turn the ball over. And when they make their shots, they're going to force Kentucky to play in the half-court set and try and run a set offense, which they're not as good at running. So I'm putting faith in the idea that Wisconsin will not turn the ball over like they haven't all season long. I think that they will hit at least 35% from 3 or above that. And I really think that Wisconsin, I think that they're a balanced team. I think that Kentucky's going to have a much harder time keying in on someone to stop. Because as much as Michigan is a very talented offensive team all the way around, Stauskas is their best player, and you have to stop him. Wisconsin doesn't have that person you absolutely need to stop to win the game. Granted, they have a lot of good players, but I think that they were underrated in the Big Ten. I think that this is the first time I think this head coach. I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. The Wisconsin head coach is really going to bother me. Bo Pelini? No, is it Bo Pelini? No, it's not Bo Pelini. I'm literally just blanking on that.
Yeah, I can't remember it either.
But it's his first time in the Final Four as a Wisconsin coach. So you know what? I think that I'm going to ride with Wisconsin. I think that Kentucky, I think that they're not going to be able to get in transition. I don't think they'll be able to force the turnovers that they need to win. So I'm going to go with the Badgers over the Wildcats in the first Final Four game.
All right, well, that's a good thing because whoever wins that bet will be in the right direction towards wearing either a Red Sox shirt or a Yankee shirt or a Patriots
don't forget the
shirt.
Hat. You'll be wearing a hat.
Yeah,
too.
it might be easier to do the hats.
No, we'll do both.
Okay.
I want to see you decked out in Red Sox sweats, jumpsuit,
I want to make
shirt,
sure
and hat.
when you purchase your Yankee shirt, I want to make sure I
I'm
see.
not purchasing.
I want to. Okay, whatever. When you wear your Yankee shirt,
I'll use it for kindling.
I wanted to see the words the letters JETER to represent our captain on his last season on your back.
Well, I'll just have World Series champs on the sleeve here so you can see that one. How's the playoff taste?
Well, we you know what we missed out on it last year, but we're hungry, so we want to know what it tastes like again.
All right, let's get to the second Final Four game.
We have UConn and Florida. Would you like to go first or you want me to go first? Keep that pattern up?
I'll go first. That's fine.
Okay.
Well, the Gators are 36-2. The fact of the matter is that they are the best team in college basketball right now.
You're 36-2.
How am I 36-2?
I don't know. I just felt like saying that.
Okay, moving on. You just rattled me. The fact of the matter is they're the only 1 seed remaining. I really like the play of Patrick Young. Now, the thing is that Florida, out of their losses this year, their last one came to Connecticut when Shabazz Napier missed a late second jumper and then got his own rebound, then put it at the buzzer to win it. Now, Connecticut is playing out of their mind right now. They beat the darling pick Michigan State. But I think the extra time to prepare is going to benefit Billy Donovan, who's already won 2 national titles. as much as Kevin Ollie's been a great coach, this is his first time to the Final Four as a head coach, and he's not as seasoned as a head coach as other coaches are in this tournament. So I'm going to go with the Florida Gators to reach the championship game and to play the Wisconsin Badgers.
My argument against this one, first I'll tell you who I'm picking, and that's going to be UConn. So we disagree, and this is great. And are you happy about that? Damn, that's happy or sad?
I might have to make you wear double because you're going to be wrong on 2 games.
Okay, well I'm going to go with UConn. We can laugh about this when it's all said and done, but let's look at the fact. You just said it. They beat the Darlings. The UConn Huskies beat the Darlings to win it all in their last game. UConn, obviously the facts are facts. Shabazz Napier is riding high. The team's riding on his back. And when you key in on somebody like him, and if you're able to shut him down, it makes it difficult for that team to win, especially if nobody else around him responds. I understand that. Number one, UConn's hungry. We understand that. But number 2 is the fact that I'm going to key in on the fact that Florida played Dayton in their last game. Yes, Florida rolled over them. I'm not saying they did not earn a win. Obviously, they wouldn't be in this position if they didn't earn a win. They still played their game, and for that reason, they pretty much rolled over Dayton. They had pretty much control of the game the whole time. But what I will say is that UConn beat, in my opinion, a much tougher opponent, and they're coming off of a game where they really had to earn a win. And I feel like that's putting themselves in a spot to basically, if you want to call it, put another match in the fire, ignite the fire a little bit hot, to burn a little bit higher on this winning streak they're going with. And I feel like that, maybe, I'm not saying that Florida is going to fall asleep now because they just played maybe an opponent they easily steamrolled, but I am saying that it may make enough difference for UConn to be able to win this game. And I feel like the X factor for UConn is not going to be Shabazz Napier. It's going to be the key to this game is who around him is going to step up. Because I'll tell you one thing, Florida is good, as you said. They probably have the ability to shut down Shabazz Napier, even though he beat them in the last game they matched up, which is another reason why I'm picking UConn is because they've already beaten Florida, one of only 2 teams to do so this season, in the regular season. But my point is if DeAndre Daniels can step up around Shabazz Napier and be the X factor, an inconsistent but very, very, very high potential player who has the potential to score in double digits and take the load, that'll be the antidote to if Florida can shut down Shabazz.
Okay. You say that you're picking Connecticut because they already beat them once this year.
Yeah.
That was in the 8th game of the season.
Yeah.
To that I say Scotty Wilbekin was suspended for the first 5 games.
Great
it can
point.
be argued
Great point.
that he was still rusty in his 3rd game of the season and the team's 8th.
Great point. Yeah.
So I'm saying that this is a different team now because Scotty Wilbekin is fully integrated back into the offense, and he's the leader of that team now. Now, with this being said, the big Achilles heel for Florida is they only shoot 66% from the free throw line, while Connecticut this year in the tournament is shooting at 88%. I looked it up while you were rambling. So
nice to know I know what you do when I'm talking.
You're welcome. But I listened to your points. So the thing is, if this game comes down the free throws, Connecticut easily has the huge advantage in that category. But
it could come down to free throws.
It very well could. I'm not going to deny that fact.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ride Florida because they are 36-2 on the year. They are the only 1 seed remaining. They were the number 1 seed in this tournament for a reason, and they're number 1 in the nation in adjusted defensive efficiency.
That's a nice stat there.
So I think that their defense will be able to slow down Connecticut. I think that Shabazz Napier will still have a good game. He's on a streak right now where you can't even stop him. Like, he's going to get his points. Right. You just have to control everything around him.
He's unconscious, as we would like to say.
Yes, you just have to stop everything around him.
Right.
That's going to be the big challenge for Florida. I think that they'll be able to do it, and that's why I have them moving on to the final game.
Well, stopping everything around him means stopping 4 other players on the court, and that sometimes is hard to do.
They've done it all season long, so why can't they do it one more time?
Okay, so then fine. Why can't Shabazz Napier carry the UConn Huskies to another win?
Because he hasn't played a defense that is the quality of Florida.
Be careful with that one.
They're ranked number 1 in the nation. That's not even
right. But they've already beaten Florida.
When Scotty Wilbekin was in his third game back.
Scotty Wilbekin is not the whole Florida defense.
Scotty Wilbekin is a very, very key part to the Florida defense and that team. This Florida team is completely different than the 8th game of the season.
You have a chicken or an egg thing, though, right? Well, maybe not that, but if you slow down Shabazz, somebody like DeAndre Daniels can be the X factor, or somebody around him is going to have a good performance. Because if Florida shuts down every single player on that team, I'll give $1 million to the first poor man I see on the street.
I'm poor.
Well, number one, I don't have $1 million. Number two, I'd love to.
Does your dad have $1 million? He might, because he might win Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, because he's right about everything, including Derek Jeter.
Okay. That was a good one, but no, he doesn't have $1 million. Number two, I'd love to give $1 million to a poor man, but I don't have it. But anyway, as I was saying, if they can shut down Shabazz plus everybody else and nobody can pick up the slack, then you earned yourself a very good pick. If not, and somebody else can be that X factor if they slow down Shabazz, then you're going to be wearing Yankee stuff for a day.
All right, well, let's get to the championship game then, shall we?
All right, so who we got?
We have two completely different things going on right now.
Which is good. Makes things interesting.
Fine.
Yeah.
I have Florida winning this championship because I stuck with them in the beginning. I'm sticking with them straight all the way to the end. I think they're the best team in college basketball all the way around, and that's why I'm going the Florida Gators to defeat the Wisconsin Badgers. You, on the other hand, have a 7-8 matchup between the Connecticut Huskies and the Kentucky Wildcats.
A big upset matchup.
Your pick involves.
In this one, it's time to say goodbye to Kevin Ali and the hungry UConn Huskies.
You're riding the freshmen of Kentucky.
I'm taking the freshmen of Kentucky who play like seniors in big situations all the way to the bank for a win and a chance to see John wear Yankees apparel for one day.
For 1 hour.
I call it a day because it's a day in this studio.
It's an hour because for a day my skin would melt because it's toxic.
I'm sure you'll wear Red Sox clothes under it anyway.
That's true.
Which if you do,
you know me too well.
If you do, I will find out and I will tear those Red Sox clothes off and then put the Yankee stuff back on you.
That's not Michigan consistent. You can't say that.
I can't.
I don't know.
It scared me to death. I said I was going to go streaking in the last show.
Man, you are on fire.
But that was because we were talking about streaks. But anyway, I'm going to ride Kentucky all the way. It doesn't make too much, can you blame me for saying that they're hot?
I'm glad.
They're good at rebounding. They spread the wealth. They have an future NBA All-Star on the team. And besides him, he has a supporting cast. Voila.
Listen, I understand why I'm picking Kentucky. They're red hot right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people are.
And a seasoned veteran coach in John Calipari.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I see your points. I just respectfully disagree with them, and we'll see what happens on Monday, a week from today.
Sounds good. That was a very long segment.
Yes, it was.
We'll be back there here on Opposites Attract, and I guess we'll be talking a little bit MLB.
Opening day.
Since it was opening day. So make sure that you do not flip the dial.